Welcome to Esther's Universe. It's a magical place full of authenticity, creativity, and joy. It's where anything is possible as science and spirituality come together to teach you how to step into your power and raise your vibration. So together we can heal the collective and make a positive impact on the world. If you love the pod, please share it and enjoy. No, this is such an exciting episode because I'm going to teach you how to tap into some of your most powerful spiritual gifts literally right now, and you can do it. You're going to be like, whoa, is this something that I've just been doing my entire life? Yes, it is. Is it something that you're going to learn to do as a tool to get to where you want to go in life and to experience life and to become the most, beautiful, powerful version of yourself? Yes. So I'm excited. This is also going to start with a random story. I was on Hinge, I don't want a relationship right now. Oh, look, I'll flow with whatever the fucking universe is bringing my way, I just try not to dictate any of my life anymore, to be totally honest with you. I create my reality as I go, as I get excited and for what I want to do. But outside of that, I feel like it's none of my business if I'm meant to be in a relationship right now or not. But we also all have a choice, right? So it's like my choice is that right now, in this moment, it's not what I'm looking for. But my choice is also to remain open to whatever the universe wants to send my way. Anyway, I'm on Hinge as kind of like a social experiment because I have been single now for like 3 months, didn't think about boys at all. I can't even express to you how much they were the furthest thing from my mind. I've just been thinking about theta and doing what I want to do and doing my own thing. And then just all of a sudden, I don't know if I said this in the last episode or not, but I was just dreaming about boys. Dream Esther was going on all these fun dates, on these adventures, just sucking face with a bunch of hotties. Different nights. It was Dream Me is on a rampage. So rogue. Anyway, then I had that whole experience that I talked about in the last episode with that random encounter with that guy that I met and blah, blah, blah. And that was really cool. And then I was like, wow, this feels like an era that I'm getting into. It feels like I'm excited because I've never dated from who I am now. I've never done this whole experience from such a conscious, healed perspective. So I'm really excited to experience this, if that makes sense. And I'm mirroring myself in all these people. When I talk to them, I'm learning about myself. I'm also learning more about the world through the perspective of others and everything. But anyway, I'm telling you this whole Hinge thing because this guy, so on my profile, it's super authentic. Super authentic. It's the most me. I'm so proud of it. If I matched with me, I'd be obsessed. Anyway, so this guy messaged, and I'm going to literally just read this to you. This all kind of has a point, so stay with me here. He just goes, the very first thing we said to each other was, he goes, based off my profile alone, do you think you could read my energy? And I was like, oh my God, fun, be right back. And I looked at his profile and I was typing what I was seeing. And I said, okay, I'm getting the vibe that you're pretty grounded as a person, unflappable. You've got a strong sense of responsibility, but it doesn't come through as serious or heavy. You carry it lightly, you're strong with it because it comes easily to you. Not sure where you got it, maybe from your dad being a good role model and teaching you, or being a poor one and you feeling like you needed to be what he wasn't for your mum, I don't know. You have the capacity to fully access people behind their egos and reach their hearts to do good in the world. I don't know if you know that that's there yet, but it's there. And I said, you like authenticity and silliness, and although you seem quite polished yourself, you enjoy the raw messiness of humanity in all of its forms. And then I was like, okay, tell me how I did. And he's like, not gonna lie, that's pretty impressive, with laughing faces. And he's like, almost spot on. He's like, I just read that to my sister and she's like, what the fuck, that's accurate as fuck. And I was like, oh my God, thanks for making my day. I want to play this game with everyone I meet now. And that just got me thinking, because what I did, I want to teach you how I did that, right? How I was able to just look at his profile and, read all of that in his energy. And like those kind of things weren't based on, you know, like one of his photos is him with a boat, you know, like it doesn't tell me from the photo specifically who he is. But I was able to read just from looking at like his face, his eyes, the general feeling that I got in my body, like when I was looking at his profile, like his words, the language he uses, the way he describes like things or expresses himself. And then, the photos and stuff kind of come into play as well, I guess, because it helps me embody myself into his shoes. So then what I'm doing is I'm essentially recognizing that he and I are the same energy. We're connected to the same energy. And I have been, I'm so in touch with all these past versions of myself. So it gives me a big view on how people operate and like the human, the spectrum, I guess, of just being a human being, right? So I draw on that. So like drawing on your past experiences as well, because sometimes like energy will come through and you'll feel it through remembering one of your own past experiences almost, but you're still thinking about the other person. But anyway, I'm going to give you just actual exercises to do with me because this, I think just getting you to do it will help you understand it better than I can explain it. All right. So I'm going to tell you a story. And I want you, if you're doing anything else right now, like stop if you can and just pay attention to this. While I'm telling you the story, if you go off on a download and you visualize some whole thing, that's okay. Maybe that's what's meant to happen. But otherwise, like try not to be thinking about like the shopping list and all that sort of stuff. Like stay with me here. Try your best to visualize it. If you feel like you don't get a strong visual, that's okay. Don't just write yourself off and be like, oh no, I must have like aphantasia, I can't, or whatever. Even people with aphantasia can develop this skill. Just visualize in the sense of like whatever comes through for you is right. Okay, so I'm going to say the words visualization. So do try and picture it in your mind as if it's a memory or something, or just get lost in it, right? Like just start listening to what I'm saying and just allow yourself to get lost. Zone into it. We're standing at a gate and it's like 6 foot high kind of gate and it's open and there's a driveway. It's like gravel driveway under our feet and the driveway is lined with these like really tall trees. And as you kind of walk along the driveway, there's like a crunch under your feet. And there's a fountain in front of you. So this fountain is like kind of like a double layered fountain and there's birds flying around it and they seem like really happy that it's there. And it has like the shade of the trees kind of over it. And the fountain is surrounded by the driveway kind of thing. So it's almost like that's where cars can do like a U-turn to come in and out of the property. And then in front of you is this big home. It's huge. It's 2-story. Kind of looks like it's maybe made out of sandstone or something. It's quite simply shaped. It's almost like just a rectangle with soft edges. And there's just heaps of windows, heaps and heaps and heaps of windows. And as you look around to your left, there's a studio there. And it's kind of like, almost looks like a barn shape. But it's not like a barn color. It's like white or something like that. And it also has heaps of windows, heaps of light. And it's got these like big open kind of doors at the front and they're hinged open and you can see into the studio and it's quite like open planned and clean and there's like a beautiful rug on the floor with a snake on it. And there's paintings all up around and there's stairs that go up to a mezzanine level that looks like it's got a bed on it. Like when you look from down where you are and you look up there, you can kind of see a bed and like a lamp and it looks like a place that people can stay. And there's this like garden path that connects the studio to the house and there's heaps of wildflowers on the other side of the garden path, like just flowers all around. The grass is not all that mowed, but it's soft. It's still short. It's just kind of wild. It's kind of unkempt, but it's still also looked after and feels safe and not itchy to be there. And there's like little white butterfly moths that fly around between the flowers and kind of flutter past your face. And there's like bees and there's like a general hum of nature, and it feels very welcoming. And there's like some duck footprints in like the sandy parts that line the pathway. Like it's like a sandy dirt type of thing. And you can see like a couple of ducks have obviously run through there. And there's like a river off in the distance. So I'm going to end that little story there. Now, if you were visualizing that with me and you could see in your mind's eye what I was saying, as if you were kind of there almost, like if you kind of get lost in it, you're not really seeing in the physical world and with what's right in front of you. It's kind of like in your mind's eye where you have memories and stuff. If you were seeing that, you were just in my channel watching it with me. That's how we do it. That's literally how we do it. You just came over into my channel and you were seeing it. You were there. It's as simple as that. You just tapped into my channel, right? And so we're going to take this a little bit further. I'll take you through a couple of stages here. So I want you to like step into my shoes for a minute with another story. So literally try and put yourself in my shoes as if this is kind of like happening to you so that you can understand how it happened for me, kind of thing. I'm also literally just thinking of a story on the spot. The one I just told you, I just thought of that. Like I just saw it unfolding in front of me. I've seen that a million times before. That's my future home. But I was just, everything I said to you, I was watching it unfold in front of me as I was saying it out loud. So now I'm just like kind of speaking until something unfolds about the next thing. Hang on. Okay. There was a time like a few years ago when I was in peak burnout. I was like really just so tired, like had worked a full day at work. I was already so zonked, like couldn't even have music on in the car because there was so much noise in my head. It felt like there was no space for anything else. I just had to drive in silence. And I got to Coles and I was in this place in life where like I couldn't believe, I was just like, how am I, this age, this broke, have worked so hard my whole life, and I'm in a position where I feel like the world is crushing me into the ground because I can't seem to break through the other side of this like promise I was given as a kid that, when you grow up, you get your own house, your own money, all that stuff. You know what I mean? I was like, why can't I ever get there? I was told that this is what I'm meant to do with my life. This is what everyone in the world talks about. And it seems that like I can't ever get there. And it's so hard to even buy food and to look after my kid. And I'm like having panic attacks all the time. And anyway, so I was like, came home. It was nighttime. I didn't get home yet. Sorry. I got to Coles. I was just going to get some dinner on my way home. And I could only get I knew I didn't have a lot of money in my account, like much at all. I'm thinking I had like $60 to my name at that time, total. And I went in to transfer. So I was like paying for the groceries at Coles at the little self-checkout thing. And I went to my phone to transfer the money over to pay for it. And something was happening like with the internet or whatever in there. And I was like, and I was already embarrassed that like I couldn't just pay. Like I was in this place where like I couldn't just have money sitting in my account because all of bills would just come out and take the money that I needed for food. So I always had to like transfer money over. And I had to like go outside because the reception wasn't working. And I went outside and like went to transfer and I looked in my account and I don't know, I don't know what had happened. Like maybe I transferred it over and then something took it out like straight away or what. But I had less. I had like $30 all of a sudden and I was like, oh my God. So I went back in and then I had to because the chick had just like saved my cart thing and then like it all reloaded up onto the screen and I had to be like, oh my God, can I just need to take all these things off. And then so she's there like unscanning it with me and this like heat was rising in my body and in my throat. And I just wanted to bawl my eyes out. I just wanted to be like, oh, just get me the fuck out of here, you know? Like I just wanted to run out of there like crying and like hide under a rock and under a blanket, because I just felt so ashamed of myself for being in this position, but I was so confused as to how I could be in that position because of how physically and mentally and emotionally hard I had worked my entire life. So I was like, how is the world like this? Like, how is this my experience of being a human being? Like, what is going on? Like, why can't I just eat food? Like, I was born onto this planet and I can't just, why can't I just use the planet's resources to survive? Like, why am I in this position? I just felt sick, you know, I felt so sick, and I felt like I felt like a deer that was just shot and there was nothing I could do about it or something. I don't know. And I know that this might sound really dramatic, but it's how I felt at the time, you know, and I've come a long way and shifted out of that energy and out of that mindset. But that's where I was at. And those kind of feelings, I feel like a lot of people understand those feelings. Okay, so I'm going to end that story there. Did you like pick up on what I was saying in the sense of like you were kind of feeling it with me? You maybe understand it because you had a time in your life where you also had a similar situation, or if you've never had a situation like that monetarily, maybe you had a situation where you felt that way, but it was because something else made you feel something like shame or whatever, and like you were kind of stuck or hopeless and helpless, that kind of thing. So kind of like, you know, just become aware momentarily of what you experienced in your body while you were listening to that story. You just embodied me. Do you know what I mean? So like you were able to listen to that story, feel how I was feeling, empathically like pick up on the meaning behind it and understand it in your body and in your mind and in your soul, what I was talking about. So that is another way that we channel. That's like the deepening of the first thing I told you about being able to visualize and tap into my channel that way. This way was like a visual and a physical. So now you're able to, like you literally just tapped into my channel and you just experienced life through my lens, and you just widened your own experience. You just became more knowledgeable. You just became more connected in with your own soul. You just became more connected in with the universe. You just became like more connected in with your psychic abilities and like all of that, just by having that one experience where you were embodying through listening and through empathy and through connecting with what I was saying. Right? Easy. You've been doing this your whole life, babe. And then, all right, it's another little kind of like tool to add in. So let's just say there's some kind of decision to be made in your life, or an understanding that you're yet to sort of reach about how life works, or a lesson that you're in or something like that. And you're kind of aware of the fact that you're in a bit of like a, what am I meant to know about this? Or what do I do about this situation? What feels right? How do I know what's, you know, my intuition and what's my fear? Blah, blah, blah. Like you're in a bit of like a, If you were to, like if you listen to this podcast often, you could say to yourself, okay, I listen to how Esther thinks enough to have a pretty good grasp on her energy and the way that she thinks. So like if I was to pretend I was Esther for a second and this, you know, situation was before me, what would I do if I was in Esther's shoes? How would Esther think about this? Has Esther ever told a story similar to this situation that I'm in? And by making the choice to be like, how would this person view this situation? You're jumping into their channel. You're able to experience the world through their lens while you're in there. and you're able to pick up through your body kind of different energies that person would go into in a similar situation. And it helps you expand your awareness, and it helps you connect in with your intuition just by doing that. Because we all come from the same energy source, you know what I mean? And so sometimes it's helpful to shift into the perspective of someone else that you trust or that you admire the way they think, that kind of thing. Or even, God, you could apply that to context to anything in life. But it's super helpful to jump into the perspective of someone else, because it helps you think outside of yourself. It helps you think in a broader perspective. It gives you other views of the situation. It's almost like being alive is just like a sphere, and thinking from the perspective of other people gives you it's almost like more of that sphere is lighting up, and the more it lights up, the more whole you become. You can just learn like this forever and ever and ever. Expand more and more and more as a person. Like I do this all the time. I do this with interactions that I have with people. I do this when I'm wanting to know more information about the world, about the universe. I do this when I'm watching videos of people on TikTok even. Like I'm popping myself into their shoes, and I'm like, I now see the world through their point of view. And that's how I am literally such a genius. But let's just take that another step further. Now I want you to practice or set the intention to do this, viewing situations from the perspective of the universe, or whatever your word for that is, of God, source, angels, whatever. The unified field of consciousness, like whatever your terminology is. Try and view the perspective of whatever situation it is that you're in through the lens of the universe. How would the universe think about this? That is what I do more than anything. That's something that I just instinctively started doing and only realized today how to fully verbalize it. I know I've said that to you guys a bunch of times, like, I view it from the perspective of the universe. But this is kind of how I do that. Like all the things that I was just kind of running you through, like I literally feel like I can visually and physically, like empathically tap into the perspective of the universe when I'm conversing with people. This is why I reach like a place of unconditional love through a situation, because I'm like viewing it from Esther and I'm experiencing it through Esther in my earth body, how it feels as like through this perspective, through this physical body, but I'm simultaneously viewing it through the perspective of the universe. And that place is just like unconditional love, and I'm just gaining more awareness, it feels, and more understanding. And then I apply that awareness and understanding into the life of Esther, if that makes sense. And so like I do this just constantly. So it's just part of my state of being, but that came through practicing. I don't think I was consciously practicing it. I think I started doing it and then noticed it in myself and was like, oh yeah, do more of that, and just set the intention. And then I just did. And then it just became a habit. So do the same, like set the intention to view as many situations as you can through yourself and also through the perspective of the universe. But one of the ways to get to that is to view the world through other people, and continue to view the world through other people as well. Like do both, but that's like, it'll help train you into that place where you can shift into someone else's perspective that easily, And I know that you can already, like, of course you can. Like it's an innate part of being a human being. It's just more like creating the space in your life and the intention to do it more, like almost gamify it. Another helpful thing to think about when you're channeling is, let's just say you want to channel a message for a specific person. So like maybe someone is going through something and they're like, oh, do you have anything? Like this is something my friends and I do often. We'll be like, here's where I'm at with this thing. Let me know if something comes through for you about it. And so we're not saying like, give me your thoughts right now. If something comes through right now, amazing. But just whenever, if something comes through, let me know. And then the friend will set the intention and be like, yeah, sure, no worries. And then something will come through for them, usually straight away with, sometimes it's later on. And then, you get more clarity through that person, because like the universe is delivering information through people constantly, right? And like if you ask, you'll receive. And, if you're asking that specific person for a reason, it's because they've probably got the experience to pull from to, for the universe to be able to put the message through them in the way that will resonate with you the most. So you can kind of like set intentions to receive information from the universe for yourself, for others. If there's something that you want to know in life and you're like, how do I do this? If you're like, I want to telekinetically pick up things with my mind, how do I do it? Like, that's probably going to be a lesson that the universe might take you on for a while. Definitely something that I've been asking for ages. And I'll figure it out one day, but I practice, you know what I mean? And so it's like, by asking, I get the energy to practice that. And I get more little ideas of like how to practice it. And maybe one day it'll happen. We'll find out. But I don't just want to write it off and pretend like it can't, because maybe it can. So I have to try. But anyway, asking the universe and then having messages come through. Super, super helpful. Now, in the context of channeling for someone, let's just say your friend's going through something and you go, yeah, universe, can I please have the information that I need about this or whatever. Then the next thing you want to do is feel into that person's energy or whatever in your body. So if you're like, how do I feel into some person's energy? Just be like, okay, how does that person make me feel right now? If I'm to like kind of put my guards down and just sort of be like, how has this person been making me feel in this moment? Are they making me feel a little like kind of drained and like they're going through something hard and like you're like, oh man, like that's really shit, and your energy feels like blur, blur, blur. That's a sign in your body, right? So like pick up on that and be like, okay, that's not necessarily how you feel. That's you feeling how they feel. And so then you bring yourself back to your like kind of like your ground zero, your energetic neutral state where you're just like, I'm just a person and here I am and I love life and whatever. And then you reflect then on their energy and be like, okay, tap back into their energy, and their energy kind of feels like because they're going through something, and you're like, yeah, okay. And then you get like, all right, I'm feeling the difference between my energy and their energy, and you go, okay, cool. So then I can tap more into their energy and just, I know that my energy is still here. I know my energy is my own safe, grounded place, and I can come back to this at any point. And then you kind of just like feel into how they're feeling in your body. And then from there, you kind of get, it's almost like your body has a projector that then comes up in front of your mind's eye and communicates like this visualization. So it's almost like the body's like a portal into the other person's channel. And then when you're in there, this like projector just comes up and you get random visuals. Sometimes it's almost like you're sorting through random, it's almost like leaves falling from a tree, and on the back of each leaf has like a little message, and there's leaves just falling all around you and you're like, oh my God. And so you just like grab one and you're like, okay, there's a little message on that leaf, and whatever that message is what you needed to hear and whatever. And then you grab another leaf and there's another little message on it, and it's almost like you're piecing together these messages just from these like totally rogue channels, like because that energy is just kind of coming through and communicating with you. And you might be like, oh, that's so weird. Like at first it might be something completely left of field and like, oh, that's just me having a thought. That seems irrelevant. But notice it. Just notice it. You don't need to write it off and be like, that's not it. I'm not in yet. Like, don't judge any of it. Just notice everything. Because if you notice everything that comes through for you in a way where you're not judging it and you're not trying to label if it's right or wrong or anything like that, and you just accept each little thing that you see or every little feeling in your body that pops up or any little thought that runs through your head, literally anything that runs through your imagination, even if you're like, I don't know if I'm making this up or not, I don't care. Just notice all of it. Even if you are feeling like you're making it up, notice it. That's happening for a reason. Stop judging it before it even forms. And then you'll either arrive at a point where you're like, oh, wait, yeah, that makes sense. And then you'll suddenly be like on a train of thought. And then that train of thought will kind of form and it will build and you'll be like, oh yeah. And then you'll be like, hey, I've had this idea. I just was thinking when you were speaking, blah, 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 blah. And you say the thing. And as you're speaking, it kind of forms even more as it's coming out of your mouth. And so you kind of have to also trust. So you could literally say to your friend in the time, like, I don't know if this is right or not, but it's coming through. So I'm just going to like speak. And your friend will be like, okay, cool. And then you both just sort of wait to find out what comes out of your mouth. And it's almost like it's building like this creative process along the way. And just like with any creative process, you can't judge it on the way out. You can't try and refine it as it's trying to be expressed. You have to let it express itself, and then you can refine it and build on it once it's kind of born, if that makes sense. So first, you're setting an intention, you're getting into the body, you're feeling how they feel, you're realizing the difference between their energy and your energy by being like, okay, here's me just at my neutral, compassionate, loving universe self for a moment, tapping into their energy. They're feeling like they're going through something, and from what they've been telling me, I understand how it feels because I can draw on past experiences that I've been in that felt a certain way, so I understand how they're feeling in my body. And now I'm just sort of like allowing space for thoughts to build in my mind. And it kind of feels like I'm just grabbing little random thoughts here and there and just noticing them and being like, oh yeah. And then it kind of starts to build into almost like a sentence or something, or a random train of thought. And then you follow that random thought and you start speaking that random thought out loud. And then all of a sudden you're saying something that actually makes sense to the two of you. Or if it comes out and you and your friend are both like, oh, I'm not like sure if that's it. Later on, something will click for someone somewhere. Like you'll be like, oh wait, this, or they'll be like, oh my God, that thing you said actually makes sense now 3 days later because these 10 other events have happened since then. It all makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, you just got to kind of be open with it all, non-judgmental of any of it, and accepting of wherever it goes. You essentially have to surrender and get over yourself, because I know so many of us just want to be right. We just want to like get it right. We just want to like assume there's some hard way to do it and all these steps, and we're just like fucking it up. Like, no, like literally just get out of your own way. Allow yourself to express whatever comes through. Don't be attached to whether it's right or wrong, or if you're fucking it up or doing it well, or if it's rogue or on point. Like, don't attach yourself to any of those labels and just let it come out. And if it makes sense, it makes sense. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That's okay. We don't need to understand everything. It's important to let the energy through anyway. But obviously it's also important to notice when you're expressing these things through your framework, because that's a natural part of expressing, right? So channeling is another form of creative expression. It's expressing, the universe is expressing through us, that kind of thing. So this all comes through our personal framework, our own personal perspective of everything that we've ever been through in our lives. And when we are expressing this, it's important to draw on our past, yes, and to draw on our experiences, but it's also important not to press them onto someone else. So the person that you're channeling for, you don't want to make them feel like they have to do it the way that you did it, or that they have to experience the way that you experienced it. It's important to let them know, like, this is coming from my personal framework, my experience. I'm going to say this thing through this. Here's how I arrived at this situation and this knowing that I can share with you. But also, like, you might have your own way of experiencing this, so just take what you can from this, or what you will, but, you know, apply it to your own circumstances, your own situation, your own framework, that kind of thing. And that just sort of like helps us to be a bit more mindful about others as well, because, yeah, I don't know. There's so many reasons why I could get into that like for another 10 minutes, but let's just leave it at that. So anyway, I essentially started writing this to put into a course in Theta for when I launch, to tell you all how to do this. So I am still going to put this into Theta, just in case some people don't listen to the podcast, but they sign up to Theta and they're doing all the micro courses on how to change their entire lives. So I'm still going to pop this in there. But I was like, as soon as I started typing, I was like, oh my God, I have to tell people literally right now. So I'm also turning this into a podcast episode for you. So hopefully it helps. Can you let me know if that was good, or if you're like, holy shit, that was the best thing ever, that was actually really helpful, I need to send it to a friend who's also on like a spiritual path, or they're connecting in with themselves and their intuition, or you're on like a balance and wellness journey and you're just wanting to get your life like into the best possible place that it can be, and you're wanting to shift yourself, like, and you're like, no, I'm making the changes. Here I am. I'm connecting in with who I am. I am becoming like a person of the universe consciously. I mean, you already are, but consciously. And you want to walk in alignment with your path and everything, and turn around and like help others along the way. Like, if that's where you're at, I really hope that this was helpful for you. And if you know other people who are in that kind of place, please do share it with them. That would be super helpful for me, because I need to help the world in whatever ways feel like they need to come through. So we're all doing this together. Thanks for listening. Love you. Bye.